This video is sponsored by Squarespace.
Have you ever seen those cartoons where the car is moving so fast that it appears to be leaning forward and kind of distorted? Well, some say that they got that idea from pictures of fast-moving cars like this. Obviously, they're not actually slanted. It's because of a camera's rolling shutter. Let me explain. Every time a photo is taken, a mechanical shutter like the one used to take this photo opens and closes for a certain amount of time to expose the image, thus the name shutter speed. Now, as we progressed through time to electronic shutters, this became a scanning rather than an opening and closing. So think of the way a photocopier would scan line by line. Now, both a mechanical shutter and most electronic shutters are examples of a rolling shutter. Now, that's because they're exposed in a progressive motion. You can see an example of this exposure in this image and see how a rolling shutter is always active and rolling through pixels from top to bottom. It's this progressive exposure that causes the warping. And then those moving cars will appear like they're leaning forward, like in that cartoon image. This rolling shutter effect doesn't only happen in cars, it's with anything that moves faster than the speed of the shutter. You've probably seen pictures of warped propellers, warped baseball bats while swinging, or even while swinging. Even if you're in a fast-moving vehicle and you're trying to take a photo or video of the environment, like this skyline looks like it's kind of from a Dr. Seuss book. So how do we fix this? Well, the answer is global shutter, my friends. We've had the technology for quite some time now in cinema cameras like the Red Komodo, the Blackmagic Ursa Mini 4K, or any of the ARRI cameras, but not in a mirrorless full-frame sensor. That is also more realistic for us to get our hands on, and most importantly for photography as well. The Sony A9 III is the world's first consumer-level global shutter full-frame sensor mirrorless camera. That is a mouthful and a half when you say it like that. Now, let's just go back for a minute. Global shutter, what is it and why is it so important?
You enjoying this video? Cool. Couple things I'm gonna ask you to do then. 1, maybe subscribe to my channel. 2, listen to me talk about Squarespace for a minute. Thanks. I used Squarespace to make my website. I legitimately did, even before they paid me to do this ad. The template I chose was clean and stylish, and I literally built it myself. I really struggle with design, but Squarespace made it super easy for me to showcase my portfolio beautifully. The platform is super easy for me to customize, update regularly, and I can get analytics about the purchases made on my digital products through my online store. And I run my own business, so I don't have time to learn a whole new platform. All right, so head over to Squarespace for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, you can use this code right here to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thanks, Squarespace. Now back to the video.
Many camera systems nowadays use a rolling shutter, which we saw and talked about already, which reads the entire sensor line by line from top to bottom, either mechanically like this or electronically like this. But with a global shutter, the sensor is read all at once, all in one go, kind of like a stamp. And because of this, we can say goodbye to distortion in photos and videos, warping and wobbling caused by quickly moving subjects or moving the camera too quickly, banding from different light sources, and any mechanical wear that comes with a moving shutter. Now, what's the big deal? How is this going to improve your video and photo? In short, obviously, no more warp. A slower shutter speed might mean that your image is still a bit soft or blurry because you're not fast enough to freeze motion, but there is no more unwanted distortion. With the latest Sony A9 Mark III, they've made this conversion process so fast that the readout of the sensor is effectively instantaneous. This means that it is the perfect camera for anything high speed like action sports or wildlife photography. Beyond its improved ergonomics and advanced features like pre-capture mode, which essentially allows you to buffer photos before even pressing the shutter button, there's also blackout-free 120 frames per second shooting and a shutter speed of up to 1/80,000. The A9 Mark III's global shutter transforms the photography landscape. There is no LED flicker, there is no banding, there is no rolling shutter, and basically as many photos per second as the camera's buffer and memory card will allow. Now, one of the reasons why this is possible with the Sony A9 Mark III is because it has a lower resolution, only 24 megapixel sensor, as opposed to a much larger like 45 or 60 megapixel sensor. That would require more hardware and more bandwidth to read out that sensor and gather all all of that extra pixel data. Therefore, that warping problem is made even worse in higher resolution cameras. So typically high-res cameras like the Fuji GFX 100, which has a medium format sensor, would be more susceptible to rolling shutter at higher resolutions because there are more megapixels and more data to transfer from the sensor to the raw file or into a video file. Sony has also considered the ergonomics of using this camera. Just look at this LCD flip out. You can use it literally in any orientation. This pleases me deeply. And then this button on the front, this little C5 dude right in there, when you hold it down, it seamlessly allows you to switch from shooting at 30 frames per second to a fantastic 120 frames per second. No, just listen to this. That's a lot of frames. Let's talk about pre-capture. So this feature, which was previously only available in video, now extends to photos. So imagine you're waiting for something to happen. You're waiting for a bird to take flight. Instead of continuously snapping photos, trying to get that first takeoff or whatever motion you're trying to wait for, you can wait until the moment happens and capture it at 120 frames per second, knowing that the camera will automatically capture the moment before you even press the shutter. It's taking some information, it's taking a photo earlier than you're even taking the photo yourself. It's like your backup, but it's not backing up, it's like your forward backup. Practically speaking, for video, most of us don't necessarily need to shoot at 120 frames per second. And if you're just a photographer, you probably don't care too much about the video benefits of global shutter. However, a big benefit for me who does shoot video would be being able to avoid banding. It's one of the most common visual artifacts affecting video, and it all depends of the frequency of a light source. Now, this is because the sensor readout is slower than the speed at which the lights flicker, and the shutter speed is faster than the light flicker frequency. So if you cut your shutter speed to 1/60 or 1/50 or slower, you should be good, but it is often an annoyance that you have to be cautious with while filming because sometimes you don't even notice it till later. Another benefit of a global shutter is that you're able to shoot at a much wider range of shutter speeds when shooting with a flash or a strobe. Now, shooting too high of a shutter will result in only a portion of the photo being lit, since the shutter is faster than the length of the flash, for example. There is a high-speed sync mode that flashes will fire for allowing you to shoot flash at high speeds. However, don't expect to be taking too many photos all at once, because if you have ever fired your flash manually at full power, you'll know that it can take half a second or sometimes a whole second or more to fire again, which goes the same for HSS. Now, with global shutter, you have more options when selecting a shutter speed to get that perfect exposure or balance the lighting within your scene, because no longer are you only taking a photo of part of your screen at one time and therefore only lighting a portion of your frame. Of course, there are some downsides. For instance, the base ISO of the A9 III is currently set at 2000, which is probably not ideal for all situations, as well as, the price point of this camera is making it one of the more high-end expensive cameras. Now, this camera may not be for you, but you may be thinking global shutter is cool and all, but I don't really shoot wildlife or sports, so why would I need it? There is nothing that you can't benefit from shooting with a global shutter. They make handheld photo and video shooting a breeze, providing a smooth, jitter-free experience, and it's really the way that filming and shooting was meant to be. Overall, the Sony A9 III is a game changer. It marks the beginning of a new era in camera technology, one where global shutters will likely become the standard. So while it may not be super accessible to everyone right now because of the price point, it is a really exciting glimpse into the future of photography and videography. So hopefully we'll see more cameras like this that are a little on the cheaper side sometime soon. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and enjoyed our little description and explanation of the difference between rolling shutter and global shutter. So if you like this video, please give it a like down below, subscribe if you're not already, and hit the notification bell to get notified for all future videos, and I will see you in the next one. And I'm gonna change my shirt because I'm very sweaty. Adios.